Hello and welcome to Lacey Rants, everybody. Alright, so today we are going to be talking about Polybius. And Polybius is an urban legend that took place in Portland, Oregon back in 1981. So the story goes that back in 1981, the game Polybius was released and distributed to several arcades in the Portland suburb area. According to legend, multiple kids who ended up playing this Polybius game actually ended up with amnesia afterwards. And those who didn't end up with amnesia would wake up with horrible night terrors, screaming, and in cold sweats. So after this, bizarre rumors started to circulate that it was actually developed by the military or CIA to test behavior modification algorithms. According to one of the owners of these arcades, Men in Black did indeed come in and collect data from these machines. Kids who did end up playing this game say that it was an abstract game, it was fast action, and there was some puzzle elements to it, but the kids who did end up playing this game stopped playing games altogether afterwards, and one of them actually ended up becoming an anti-game advocate. After about a month or so of the Polybius machines being in these arcades, they randomly just disappeared, never to be seen again. And the only piece of the Polybius machine that still exists is a photo of the start screen. So as you can see, it definitely looks like many of the game start screens from the 1980s era. Trying to do a Google search of the company that ended up creating the Polybius machine comes up with absolutely nothing. Somebody even went as far as to actually request information from the government, but still no results. So when you translate the game's company name from German to English, you actually get broken German, and it's the phrase sensory deprivation. And this definitely seems to play into the entirety of the story. Before going further into this rabbit hole, is Polybius real? Well, yes and no. So, what do I mean by that? Well, let me explain. So, back in the 1980s, arcades were extremely popular, and they didn't just bring in the type of people who wanted to play video games, but they also brought a different crowd. This different crowd was teenagers and even adults who would come and they would either peddle drugs or they would start up like illegal gambling off to the side, betting on who's gonna win the game type situation. So, of course, with this type of activity happening, the Portland Police Department thought it would be a brilliant idea to actually go ahead and rig these game machines with recording devices, hoping to catch these people in the act of gambling or peddling drugs. So this Big Brother activity that the Portland Police Department did actually ended up proving to be pretty successful for them. They ended up arresting several individuals lined with gambling or illegal drug trafficking. So in a nutshell, reports that Men in Black were coming into the arcades and collecting data from the arcade machines wasn't necessarily a lie. They did indeed rig the machines with recording devices, which they would later retrieve from the machines and bust people. But that does bring up the question, what about the kids who were experiencing amnesia or ending up with these night terrors? Well, that can also be explained. Back in the 1980s, a lot of the games that were developed were super flashy and fast action, and that just kind of seemed to be the theme of the games back then. So these types of games, just like games nowadays, are actually really bad for people who are sensitive to seizures or things like that. So it's not the first time that people have gotten sick or experienced weird effects after playing video games. So there were a few different reports of kids getting sick from playing video games in arcades in Portland at this time. But none of these reports involved a game named Polybius. And they mostly centered around either the players playing video games for an extremely long period of time or overconsumption of caffeine. So, I guess the question is Polybius real? In short, no. The machine and the mind control elements are not real. But the government collecting data from the arcade machines and kids getting sick at these arcades, well, that actually is real. So, seeing how the 80s were super known for the MK Ultra and all sorts of government conspiracies, it's super easy to see how teens of the 80s seeing arcade machines getting hauled off by police officers and kids getting sick at arcade could develop into the story that we know as the urban legend Polybius. So let me know down in the comments what you guys think. I hope you guys really enjoyed this story. I do plan on doing some more type urban legend stories. So I really do hope that you guys enjoy. Let me know down in the comments what you think, and I hope you guys have a good one. Peace.